1969, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin became the first men to land on the moon. Just like aliens visiting from another planet, it had been stuff of science fiction, but now everything that could be imagined became possible. If mankind could travel the world and travel the universe and go to different planets, why couldn't beings from other planets come to Earth? Through this, a new theory emerged that aliens visited the Earth in antiquity and regarded as gods. But if that were true, wouldn't there be proof? Perhaps there was, and we just have to look all around the world. Today I'm going to share with you what I've learned about the possibility that aliens have crossed paths with humans throughout the world. I've been watching and researching ancient aliens for a few months now, and ever since I came across the show, it's called Ancient Aliens. I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's on the History Channel. Many of you might say that there's no proof of aliens or aliens don't exist, but I beg to differ. Even the Vatican considered it to be true. Eric von Daniken published a book that would forever change the way many in the science and religious communities would view their own planet. There are many indications that beings helped create structures and even great wonders of the world, such as Stonehenge and pyramids. In 2008, a startling proclamation was announced by the Vatican. For the first time in their 2,000-year history, a Catholic Church acknowledged the possibility that intelligent life could exist on other planets. Also, that a belief in extraterrestrials didn't contradict a belief in God. But what sparked the Church to consider this proclamation? Perhaps it was the new scientific knowledge that came out. Swiss scientist and author Erich von Daniken wrote a book called Chariots of the Gods, which attempted to prove that explorers visited the Earth thousands of years ago. In it, he put forth a hypothesis that thousands of years ago, space travelers from other planets visited the Earth. He is known as the father of alien theory. He argues that after researching the beginnings of many religions and mythology, that they are all the same story. That some being comes down from the skies, and he comes down to them, to his people. That's the picture of so-called God coming down in a machine. Right here as well. This is a whole different continent. This is in Asia. You can see that all these angels are around him, and he's coming down in a contraption of some sort. There are just different names of the gods. That's the only thing that's different. They all have the same story, but the gods just have different names. Many argue that these gods could have been mistaken for extraterrestrials coming down to the humans. Von Daniken says that there are hundreds of indications in literature and artifacts. Chariots of the Gods was a new age for new authors, new theorists. There have been 40 different printings and 30 different languages of the whole book, Chariots of the Gods, since von Daniken's discovery. Let's see. In the Nazca deserts of Peru, there's an arid plateau that stretches for 50 miles. It's in between mountains there's all these mountains, and in between them is this arid plateau that stretches for 50 miles that is artificially made by, it couldn't have been made by, humans can't just, of that time, humans can't just get the summits of the mountains and take them to some other place, because there is no evidence of the mountain tops anywhere. They include drawings of animals, as you can see, as spiders, monkeys, and they can only be seen from a higher, like from space, not from space, but from about like 500 feet up and above. Because of their colossal size, the figures can only be seen way up in the air, and there is no evidence that Nazca people who lived in the area between 300 AD BC and 800 AD invented flying machines. According to many ancient theorists, spaceships, as they came in for landing, served as a runway, as you can see right here. This stretches for 500 miles, and there are just straight, flat surfaces, and you can see this like a runway over here. And there's just all these different kinds of symbols that can be only seen from space. And like the reason they ask is why are those things there? According to many ancient alien theorists, spaceships came through this. They use this as a runway, supposedly. Also, another piece of evidence is that it's called Kumupunku. As you can see right here, these stones lay in a perfect order. All these are what was built on top of it. It was once, I want to say, 100 feet high. They look like H's, as you can see right here. They're perfectly cut right here. According to ancient alien theorists, spaceships came and this is found in the highland of Bolivia, and these are each weighing about a couple hundred tons, and they were stacked up, like I said. Giorgio Tsoukalos, the director of the Archaeology, Astronautics, and SETI Research Association, is saying that this is the most single evidence that we have, the greatest single piece of evidence that we have, because the lines are so perfectly cut, and this is granite. The only thing that can cut granite is diamond, which we have no proof that they had diamond at this age, at this 300 AD. Yeah. So in conclusion, I have just given you a couple pieces of evidence that there is evidence that ancient beings have came and given us machines, or provided machines for us to help us do all these monuments. This is just a couple of things that I've came across. There are so many different things, such as Atlantis, that there's no explanation for it. Thank you.
All right, Siraj, we are plugging you in here.
I like the topic. When I heard about the topic, I liked it, but the introduction, it didn't really explain where the rest of the presentation was going. And the visuals are good, but there was certain points he was talking about would seem more persuasive than theory. It was kind of drifting from him, so persuasive rather than informative. Otherwise, it's pretty good. Interesting stuff, but maybe he could have delivered it a little bit better.
All right, I thought the opening was fine. It identifies the topic. You've got a very clear thesis statement, so you're in good shape there. Organizationally, though, that's where things start to fall apart a little bit, because we don't really have a preview of what's coming, and then you start going through the material, and as I'm listening to it, it sounds like it's being topically organized by the particular things that you're talking about, the drawings and the H's and those kinds of things. So it sounds like it's divided that way, but it's not particularly clear that that's what your intention was. And so I think you want to have a little bit more control of the organization. There were a few source citations. You're very dependent on, Chariots of the Gods, and I think that there are some pretty conclusionary inferences that are being made there. In other words, there's an inference, an explanation, and then it's kind of taken as a given that I think we'd want to hear a little bit more on some, what other people have got to say about these kinds of things. We're sort of getting the one-sided perspective on this, and I can see why Suraj might be thinking that's exactly, how it gets to be persuasive in nature. The visuals, in the opening part of the speech, there were 3 or 4 visuals that you had on for a very short fraction of a second. I think there was a shot of the pyramids. There may have been a shot of something else too, but I missed it because I had the unmitigated gall to look down once, and so there were a couple of things that I think you rushed through. And then other things that you left up for a while that were, fine or not particularly important. Why we got a picture of the Vatican for a minute or so is not all that understandable to me. But once you got to the ancient architectural phenomena, you did a good job of showing those kinds of things and letting us see them. I should say we could see them in the images. They're large and they're clear. Now, your showing them is a little bit problematic because you turn and you start giving your speech to the screen. You're doing that a lot. You're also looking down a lot in the beginning part of the speech where you're not using all those visuals as much, except maybe when you're slipping through them very quickly, and you constantly have to look at your notes. And I put this down, it's accentuated by the fact that you have the hat on, because I'm seeing the top of your hat on a regular basis. I can constantly tell that that's what you're doing. You're looking down, and you speak kind of sideways. So that we're going to work on delivery things a little bit more. Those will be things to pay attention to in the future. But when you watch your speech, you'll see a lot of those kinds of things. It feels like you've got a good topic here, you've got interesting visuals, you need to do some editing and some practice because it's not really finalized. It's in an early stage in the process, not a final stage in the process. Yeah, okay.